Hello, chess family. It's time again for another chess lesson from Logical Chess. It's me, National Master Jesse James Lozano. Let's go and take a look at this game. Here we're going to be seeing a very nice game here against the Stonewall and basically how to crush it. Well, this is one trick I like to use in a lot of my games, and I will tell you, a lot of Stonewall players will fall for this idea. So let's go and take a look at this game. Here we go. We start off with d4, d5, pawn to e3. I like the move order here for white, who's going to be playing the Stonewall, as they're playing it very inconspicuously. Black plays pawn c5. Again, a move you want to play against all these d4 openings. Don't be afraid if they ever do take the pawn. First of all, most d4 players will never take the pawn, but if they ever do, just know e6, and you should be able to win the pawn back with the better position, since you have both pawns in the center, and they've only got one now. If you don't feel comfortable with the e6 move, you can always just use the easy queen a5 check and then take the pawn. I will tell you, playing this way is not as good as playing e6. Anyways, let's go back to the game. c5 gets played, and now we see pawn c3. This is already a hint that your opponent is looking to play this Stonewall. I mean, this is the Kali opening, but here they've reserved the right of not playing knight f3 right away so that they can play the pawn to f4. Well, black continues with still good moves. He's going to go ahead and play pawn to e6. White plays bishop d3. The suspense is building. Knight c6, and here we go. There's really no good move here that you can play. I mean, I guess you could play knight d2 here, but it's pretty much now or never. Let's go ahead and play it. Pawn to f4, and here we've got the Stonewall pawn formation. Now, this is a very tough opening. Typically, players 1800 below have a hard time busting this position. Anybody above that, they know strategy pretty well, and they know the main idea. It's if you can try to prepare f6, e5 in a lot of these openings, then you should be okay. Also, this is going to be a trick to show a different way of busting this pawn structure. So here we go ahead and see black just keep with normal moves. Knight to f6, knight d2. And now a nice little move here. I usually don't play this move. I usually go bishop to d6 for the trick. But here, black actually plays queen c7. And this move may look a little inconspicuous. Again, like what does this move actually do? Black is setting up for a very nice trick here that white falls for. Here, white played the normal move of knight gf3, and now black can mess up white's pawn structure. How can that happen? Well, here we actually just play the simple c takes d4 exclam. Why is this good? Well, here you see that, well, we actually can't take back with the e-pawn anymore. This is the way the pawn structure wants to be whenever you play this pawn structure. White wants to play knight to e5, and you can see you want to actually take back this way so you can actually open up the bishop. I mean, in the best case scenario, you'd really want them to take on e5, and then you could take back with your pawn, and then you just see a beautiful pawn structure saying, you know, we're going to be attacking on the king side, and here this bishop, which is closed, will be opened up. And this is exactly what happens here. Here, yeah, if you go ahead and take, black's going to be greedy and just grab the pawn on f4. I mean, why not here? There's some discoveries here, like maybe knight e4 can get played, but I mean, just play queen back to c7, and they can mess up your pawn structure, but who said we're going to castle kingside anyways? We're up an extra pawn. We can just develop normally, maybe even keep the king in the center here. Black is already in a better position. So this is the problem whenever you play the Stonewall. Again, I like to play it actually with my bishop going to d6, so when they do play knight gf3, then I take, and then they take back here, and I can just take with the bishop, and this is obviously better. Well, here, whenever we look at the pawn structure, we ask ourselves, why can't white just play c takes d4? Well, anytime you're playing this opening as white, for the Stonewall players, you're trying to do a kingside attack. And anytime you're trying to do the king side attack, you want to keep the center closed and also the queen side closed. You see, this is exactly what is wrong with this move. After you have to take back with the c pawn, now you see black is able to open up the queen side. And now white's not going to be able to generate that very strong king side attack because, well, black can create plenty of counterplay on the queen side. Especially since, well, if you do go for a king side attack, you can see black's king is still in the center. So when you attack on the king side, what are you really attacking here? So white is pretty much forced to go ahead and play. C takes on d4, and you can already see a lot of weak squares over here. Hopefully you see that c2 is a bit weak, b4 is a bit weak, d3 can become weak, and this is exactly what black's going to play right away. Do you see black's move right here? Here black's going to start an irresistible queenside attack. What does black play here to start winning some squares on the queen side? Hopefully you found it. Black chooses the very easy and good move of knight to b4. Notice here we attack those weak squares, as I mentioned, c2 and d3 here. The bishop can't even actually move back to e2 here because, well, if we go back to e2, just a simple knight c2 check will win the game. So where does the bishop move? Bishop has to run back to b1 here. Of course, we don't want to give up this light square bishop. This actually does happen in the game by force, but if you're thinking about playing something like queen a4 check, well, this just gets parried away with bishop d7, only helping black develop pieces. If you're looking at queen to b3, black is very happy just go ahead and play knight takes d3 here and winning the bishop pair. So, yeah, white tries to hold on to this and plays bishop to b1. Let's keep up the game. Let's keep up our development. What does black play next? Black is going to be developing on the queen side first to create the queen side counterplay. Hopefully you found the move. Bishop to d7. Very nice move here. You can see because, well, the bishop is gone from this diagonal, this bishop's looking about taking it himself. Well, white had a plan here. Unfortunately, it was an incorrect plan. White played pawn e3, expecting the move of knight c6 back. What did black play here, which was very strong, developing a piece and making a threat? Hopefully you found it. It's just a simple move. Rook to c8. Look at this beautiful tempo right here. Yeah, after rook c8, we're just threatening to play. Queen takes on c1 here. And it's kind of taboo. You can't even really take back. For instance, after pawn takes, queen takes, you don't want to take back because after queen takes, rook takes, well, now you're going to be losing your rook on h1 here. So what do you do in this situation? It's very tough. The queen's threatening to go to b2. I mean, I guess you can go pawn grabbing over here, but things are going to go bad very, very fast. Queen takes b2 is a move. I even like bishop takes b4, threatening over here. Yeah, this is just a bad position here. Black is definitely better, especially because white was supposed to go for a kingside attack, and obviously white has lost the queen side because black is just crushing through over here. Well, white tried to keep the game as close as possible and plays castles here. The idea, well, we got our king to safety, and we're going to go ahead and defend this bishop. Again, black just concentrates and keeps making threats each move. Again, a very nice move here by black. There's two good moves here. If you can just give me one of them, I'll be happy. Which one did you say? Hopefully you saw knight c2 as a move. And the other one is bishop to b5, which I think is definitely the better of the two. How does this work? Well, this actually gets played in the game. So let's take a look at the other move of knight c2 first. So knight c2 is, again, just a very nice move here. Black is attacking over here. This knight's way too strong. White's pretty much going to be forced to take. So bishop would take, queen would take, and, well, again, this queen's just staring in your face. Most people will take here, and after rook takes, black is already in a winning position because he has penetrated to the second rank. Rooks want to be naturally on the second or the seventh rank here, where they can naturally attack all the pawns. Of course, black would want to maintain his seventh rank so he can defend his pawns, but obviously here he's trying to attack his opponent here. So he's already got an open file, and reinforcements will be coming in to attack. This is actually what happens in the game. But as I said, black did not hurry to play this move. He plays an even slicker move, which is bishop to b5, which again, I liked a lot too. A very nice idea here, which is, well, putting the bishop to its best diagonal right here, getting control over the d3 square, because we see now we have the knight and the bishop here. And, well, of course we can't take, because after bishop takes on f1, we can't take back so easily, because then the c1 bishop will be falling. So, white really had no choice. They had to play rook to e1 to get out the way here. You could play rook f2, but the rook is going to be nicely placed defending this pawn on e3. I mean, you know things have gone bad when we're only on, what move is this, 12, and white is defending the position. Black goes ahead and continues. Two good moves here to play. Which one do you like better? We have knight to d3 or knight to c2. Obviously, we need to move the knight because it's being attacked. If you ran backwards, this is not the time. Right now, we need to penetrate, attack. We need to win some squares. The game, black goes ahead and plays knight c2. If you thought about knight d3, it's not a bad idea. This is a forced move here, and white is pretty much forced to trade here, right? The bishop is well placed here. Maybe can go to e4, but again, black is already thinking about this endgame, and getting a rook or a queen to the second rank is going to be great because all we're going to do is attacking their pieces. And knight c2 is forced because we're attacking the rooks, so white had to go ahead and take. Black takes back, and again, white really had no better moves best for them is not to trade, but the pressure will only build up. So they went ahead and took, and black takes right here. Black has now penetrated the position successfully and has some very good pieces, but he still needs to get the bishop, rook, and the knight in the game here. You see this bishop and rook are doing great, but we got to get the rest of these guys in here. Don't think just because you have two pieces in the game that, two pieces attacking, that's it. You got to get your whole army to attack. This is something that a lot of beginners will forget about. They get too excited about winning a pawn and not getting the other pieces into the position. When you bring these guys over here, naturally you will be winning material. So you want to do that without giving white any counterplay. Here, white's going to try and save the position. White went ahead and played pawn to h3. It may seem like a strange move here, but white was worried about black playing knight to g4 here. I don't think that's such a big deal. But yeah, that's what they played. Let's go ahead and develop our next piece, which is the bishop. Where does that bishop go to? Very simple chess. We have e7 or to d6. Which one do you like better? Hopefully you thought this a little bit through, and you see that bishop d6 is better. Bishop e7 is okay, but it doesn't really do anything here. What's the idea of bishop to d6? Well, we see that white may try to play their knight to e5 here. The bishop's going to be controlling a few more squares, at least attacking something, but the bishop could be traded off for this knight, which is definitely going to be white's best piece in the game. Here, white goes ahead and plays. Very interesting move. Again, it's very hard here for white. Look at their pieces. Ugh. Asleep, asleep, asleep. White's going to try and reorganize their pieces. White goes ahead and plays knight to b1. You can see that white's trying to block in this piece of black, or trap the piece, and play something like knight c3. This is actually a very nice idea. After every move, you need to ask yourself, what is my opponent's threat? So, what does black play here to stop knight c3 from happening? And we better our piece. Hopefully you see it. It's a simple move. We're going to go ahead and play knight to e4. Of course, the knight jumps into its great position here, and you can see that if the knight does play the c3, well, then we'll just take, and then take, giving us a free pawn and a better position. So always battling white's idea, plus improving your position too. White went ahead and played knight f to d2. A nice little idea here, trying to make the trade of the knight so that we can play knight to c3. Of course, you don't want to play the knight back where it was. And this knight, well, again, if you had tried to throw it to e5, black is more than happy just to trade it off. What do we play here? Keep improving your position. If you thought about taking right away, you are training your mind incorrectly. To take is a mistake. Always try to improve your pieces. I like the way that they play here. Black goes ahead and plays, improving his pieces. Bishop d3. A nice idea here, defending the knight. And also, you see, if the knight takes, which does happen in the game, we simply take back with the bishop, and now we have pressure on the g2 pawn, always making threats. White went ahead and played knight to d2 here. And how does black improve here? Well, you can move the bishop away if you like, but the main idea in this game is the open c file. Black plays a brilliant move here as far as understanding the chess position. What would you play here if you're playing black? Well, there's a lot of moves you could look about playing. If you thought about castling, not a bad idea, but definitely not the best. You thought about moving away your bishop. You could do that, but where is your bishop going to be doing more work? So here the best move, which was played in the game, was, of course, the simple move, king to d7. Remember, in endgames, guys, we don't need to castle. In fact, it would actually be detrimental because whenever you castle, you're going to have to run your king back to the center. So the king goes to d7 and also allows for the last piece to get into the game, which is the rook. So black will have full control over the only open c file. He can go in and out of the position, but he's mostly going to be bringing in reinforcements to attack down the c file. White continued with knight takes, pawn takes. This is actually very good for black, as now black can even move his king up to a better position. Because white has the dark square bishop and black has the dark square bishop, the light squares is where the penetration squares are, or where we can move our pieces into attack. Well, let's go to continue. White's going to try and get this rook out into the game. Notice the bishop really can't move anywhere because, well, d2 is the only square, and the rook will just take. So, rook to b1. Let's go ahead and play simple chess. Let's get our last rook into the game. All of black's pieces are looking very good here. And here white plays a bad idea and plays pawn to b4. This is a very typical bad idea that many low-rated players would play. If I was playing this, I'd try to play something like rook d1, rook d2, or maybe even bishop d2 and get the bishop to c3. These are moves that you want to play here. The unfortunate thing of when you play b4 is now you're giving away more penetration squares. Now you can see that c3 is now open up for the rook to come in and start making attacks, which is actually what's going to happen. Right whenever this gets played, black just jumps in. Rook to c3, here we go. White does a good move now, trying to bring the king over to f1. Maybe we can play something like rook e2 in the future. It's a little hard since we doubled up here. And black is going to go ahead and keep making progress. How do we make progress in this position? That's my question to you. What do we do to make progress here? If you can't figure out a plan, a good way to try and develop one is try to find a weakness in the position. Well, everything is actually being defended right now, but the big weaknesses that I can see is going to be the e3 and a3 pawn, and it's the bishop, right? So what we can do here is just slowly improve all our pieces. Can this bishop be placed anywhere better? Possibly. Maybe we can play the e7 to h4. That's not a bad idea. Putting good pressure over here and a nice diagonal. What else can we improve? Well, the rooks can't really be improved anywhere. They're on the best file here, and you can't really move them anywhere. Again, if you try to attack e3 or a3, the bishop's just defending. Well, how about we improve one of our best pieces in the endgame, which is the king. Here, we're going to bring our king into the game, and, well, we're going to find a good place for it to attack. Again, e3 or a3. Which way should we go? Hopefully you saw it. It's the one with the less defense, which is the a3 pawn. How is it less defenses? Well, the king over here is going to be pretty active on trying to defend over here. And if you're saying to yourself, hey, there's a bishop, we're going to get to that in a little bit. Here we go. Right now, let's just improve our position. King c6. You can see the king has two options. You can go to d5, b5, go to c4, or to a4, which is a square I would love to get to. White goes ahead and plays bishop b2. As well, if he just kind of sat around and did nothing, then black would just keep improving the position. And then the breakthrough move would be very nice to show. But I'm going to wait till the game for that to happen. Here, white went ahead and played bishop b2. Now e3's gotten a little bit weaker. Where do we move our rook now? Well, always make a threat. So black played rook to b3, attacking the b2 bishop. Here, trades are going to be beneficial because the more trades we get, the weaker these pawns will get. White went ahead and was happy and played rook to e2. This is a terrible idea because now they're actually putting themselves into a pin. Now, they were in a pin already, but they could have tried to at least play something like bishop a1. But even bishop a1 is losing because, well, you're just going to be losing the a3 pawn, right? So if you try to play something like bishop a1, I can simply just take on a3. Well, white tries their best, rook to e2, and black's more than happy. Takes, and now white has an active plan here we need to take care of. White's going to try to bring the king over here and attack this rook. Here, black comes up with a beautiful plan to stop this. Can you find the move here? Let's keep penetrating. Let's keep bringing that king in. King goes to b5, king to d2, king to a4. Again, this is where we want to be because we're attacking the base of the pawn chain. This is the pawn furthest from the king. The king went to e2. Seems like a strange move here. If you try to play king to c2, well, you're just going to lose the e3 pawn, right? So the king was not really threatening to go over there, but it was something that they were looking at playing. So what do we play here to break through? The king just runs back to e2. Now we have the breakthrough position. Black to move and win. What do we do here? If you're thinking about attacking over here at the pawns, you are on the right track, especially because we have a pin right now. Hopefully you found it. It's the beautiful move. Pawn to a5. What a nice move here. We're putting pressure on b4, so if they don't take, well, then we'll take. But, of course, if they take, what do we play here? If you took on a5, incorrect. Here we have the very strong move. Bishop takes a3, winning another pawn and winning a piece because of the pin. So a5 is just a winning idea altogether. Here white went ahead and played king f2, and black is happy. He just takes the pawn, and king takes. Yeah, this is just winning here. The rest of this game is just very nice technique. King takes b4, king to e2, and a very nice move here, king to b5. Some of you guys may be asking why king b5 was played. You have to be careful here. We're trying to add the bishop in for pressure, and you don't want to go to a4, c4, because then white can jump out of it. For instance, after something like king c4, we can go rook c1 check and get out of the pin. Now, is black still winning? Yes, he is. But we're going to only make the game harder on ourselves. So let's keep the game nice and simple. King b5 threatening the simple. Bishop to a3. King to d2. Bishop a3, of course. King c2. And, well, here's a question for you. Should we play rook takes e3 or play rook takes b2 and go into an endgame? Should we win another pawn or go into the endgame? Be careful. If you try to win a pawn here, white does have some tricks here. We have a few different winning moves. Bishop takes a3 check. and we also have bishop c1 check winning the rook. Here, the easiest way to play is just, of course, going into a winning king and pawn endgame. Here, it's just going to be rook takes, bishop takes, and king takes. Here, we're only up one extra pawn, but that's all it takes. All we're going to do is escort our b pawn all the way down the path. Now, there's a few different ways to win this one. You can either win it by tempo with opposition, or you can just use this guy as a distraction. You just push this pawn all the way down. When the king comes to grab it, now you can go run and grab the e3 pawn, and once e3 falls, all the other pawns fall. In the game, it continued with king c4, king c2, b5, and white resigned. But again, I'll just show you how this would look if the game did continue. A very simple king and pawn endgame. King b2, king d3 would get played, and once these pawns are won, we have a new passed pawn that can come in. It's not going to take too long for black to create another one. Or, if they try to play a king d2, then again we just push over here. This is what they call the two weaknesses principle. Definitely can't stop both of these guys. And then queen, king takes, king d3, and again a very easy king and pawn endgame. Well, hope you enjoyed this game about how to beat the Stonewall Dutch. This is one of the tricks that you can use to do that. We'll see you in the next one.